had a couple gin drinks, and then the whiskey came out. Or no, then the Basil Hayden's came out.
It's a whiskey.
It takes a whiskey drink. It takes a vodka drink.
Yeah.
It takes a cider drink. It takes a lager drink.
I was pissing the night away.
Takes a whiskey drink.
It takes a whiskey drink.
It takes a whiskey drink.
He takes a whiskey drink.
Did Jerry say whisking the night away?
I said
no.
Pissing the night. I don't. Is that actually what it's? I've always just assumed.
Pissing the night away. Pissing the
because
I've sang that song at karaoke.
Because of the amount of urination you have to do when you drink that much.
When I sang it, I realized how little there actually is going on in that song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 4 groups of lyrics repeated over and over.
Yeah.
And to think that they're an anarcho-punk band.
Yeah, right?
That's the thing that's most baffling to me.
Yeah, the rest of their music is not that.
They don't even follow their own rules sometimes.
Yep.
So they just got the one song? Well, I mean, they got more than the one song, but they just got the one song that's,
Is that Chumbawamba?
Yeah,
yes,
Chumbawamba. They actually have other albums.
Tub Thumping. They have another song. I really only know Tub Thumping.
I mean, none that are famous, but they have other albums.
Yeah.
And yeah,
they're
that
about
punk band.
friggin' Mambo Number 5. I'm sure he is.
Do they have any other songs about drinking, or is it just the one?
I haven't sunk my teeth into Chumbawamba's B-sides.
They're not even B-sides.
You don't have the Chumbawamba discography on your computer right now? What the fuck?
So, we're the History Boys, gang. I'm Chris Whedon, History Boy.
I'm Tyler Armentrout, and I am the Scat Man.
Diddly-doo. Be-ba-da-doo.
Oh, I don't give it away for free, baby.
I am Zach Meck, whiskey connoisseur, and history boy.
Oh, good.
And and today I will be telling you all about how Evan Williams is the premier whiskey of choice.
Yeah.
For the History Boys.
I am Jerry Nash. I am a history boy. And just that, just a history boy.
That's all I did too. I was like, let's get this fucking party going. Jesus fucking Christ.
Wait. So nobody else has any more plugs that they need to make for products that they're hoping we can get sponsorship deals with?
Well, there is my plug for hair plugs, but
Clorox bleach, if you're listening.
We're a big fan of your product.
I'm a fan of your product. I like the smell.
You're one of those people, aren't you? Can I thank our final sponsor, Lockheed Martin? Thank you guys so much for everything you've done for us.
They certainly don't listen to this to this podcast.
Yeah, if you, Mr. Lockheed and Mr. Martin, Mrs. Martin, whatever's going on over there, send us some Tomahawk missiles. We could really use them.
Crush our enemies.
Got a schoolyard bully who needs to learn a thing or two.
I think currently we have one.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking
Jerry, who are we talking about today?
We are talking about Ned Kelly. So to this day, Ned Kelly, the Australian outlaw bushranger, is a polarizing figure in Australia, with people on one side saying that he was no better than a homicidal outlaw, while people on the other side of the argument say that he was a Robin Hood-styled character fighting against an unjust system.
Yeah, fuck the system.
I mean, it's punk rock. Fuck the system. I mean, the entire country is founded on criminals. Like, really? You guys are gonna be polarizing about this?
Sort of. I mean,
it's kind
they
of
sent a lot of criminals there, but the colonial government tried to keep them where they were.
Well, you got a couple of different groups coalescing in the bush at that point in time. By the way, I'm not going to make any jokes about bushrangers, no matter how tempting it may be.
I'm holding you to that.
So most of the criminals there were sent there. It was through a thing called transport. So
it's called
pretty
transportation. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, transportation, and then that's essentially you did something wrong in Ireland or England or anywhere inside the British Empire, and they'd pretty much send you to Australia. But you also got a bunch of rich people essentially planting flags on the moon, because Australia might as well be the moon. And they know that if they get to the land, squat on it first, they can build a huge estate and have all the land that they want essentially cash free as long as they know which palms to grease.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's sort of like if your crime wasn't so bad that it deemed the death penalty, they would send you to Australia. And it was sort of viewed as like a second chance. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, if you make it there, fuck, you deserve to live. You know?
They got kangaroos, man.
Yeah.
I wonder
I've
if
seen the
anyone was
video.
like getting sentenced to Australia and they're like, Australia, give me the noose.
I don't know. Probably not. Now, a lot of what we know of Ned Kelly has passed into romanticized legend. Like most things, there are two sides to every story. Although, in the case of Ned Kelly, there are sometimes several sides to one story.
So his story is more of a cube.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to visualize it.
It's
I've
a
seen that.
hypercube, a tesseract. It's
There you go.
multifaceted.
The
Yeah.
autistic kid
I saw all three
figures
Cuban
out the
movies.
numbers, and he escapes at the end. Is that this?
Yeah.
Is that the story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not this time. Not our story that we're telling today, but it is a story.
Oh.
Yeah. So Ned Kelly's father, John Red Kelly, and he was more known as Red because
Red
he had
Kelly.
bright red hair.
I was about to ask how are his pubes, but you just answered it.
All reports say that the carpet did match the drapes, and there's actually conflicting evidence because it's also how he liked his steaks. He liked them blood rare. So
Okay.
The carpet matched the stakes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ah.
which he would say to people, and it was very off-putting.
Now, Red Kelly was born in 1820 in Tipperary County in Ireland to a poor family. Now, Red never spoke of the crime that sent him to Australia, although he was officially charged with, quote, agrarian outrage, which probably meant pig stealing.
Well,
Pig
and some
Some
of the research that I did said it was 2 pigs specifically.
Right,
And
but
meant...
well, we'll get to like what we think it actually was, because that's the official record. That's what he was officially charged with, was agrarian outrage. Although cattle theft was also a charge that carried the death penalty, but agrarian outrage carried the transportation penalty.
Oh, he must have had friends in high places.
No.
Okay. Well, do you think that the reason why they gave him agrarian outage was because
Outrage?
he was outrage? Rather,
Yeah.
thank you. Is because he in fact slept with his neighbor's wife, who was very piggish.
No.
Okay.
He was still pretty young. He was
I knew somebody
21.
was going to go there.
He was
sorry.
21 when he was sent to Australia.
Jerry, did he want to go back home to Tipperary?
He probably did, but let me tell you what we really think, and
that
tell
like a
you
song?
why
I'm referencing
it
a
is.
song.
Yeah, there is a song, but let me tell you why he could never go back.
We
And
can never go back to
why-
Tipperary.
Yeah, and why he did view Australia as like a total blank slate. So we have to ask ourselves, like, why the weird, lax charge if he indeed committed cattle theft, which stealing pigs is cattle theft. And why was he so silent on the matter? Why didn't he never speak of it? Because a lot of people who were in Australia were proud of their crimes, frankly, especially since a lot of them were there fighting against the British government.
Badass.
Yeah. So some believe that in the lead up to the Young Islander Rebellion of 1848, to save himself and his family, he informed on his friends that maybe were involved, and presumably with Red, with the rebellion, or probably just general seditious acts against the British Crown. That's why he never spoke of it, and that's why he was sent to Australia. And actually, one of his friends that went to jail with him, that he informed on, tried to run away, and he was shot, like, as he was leaving. So his one friend that knew what his real crime was is now dead, and he was on his way to Australia. So he's like, blank slate, here I come, you know. But we think that he was a very proud Irishman, In fact, we know he was a very proud Irishman. Everyone said so. And the fact that he didn't speak about his crimes tells a lot of historians, and everyone disagrees, but tells a lot of historians that he may have informed on his friends under some sort of duress because he was worried about.
It's like the old British adage: snitching is bitching.
Yeah. It wasn't so much the pigs that he stole as much as the rats he gave away.
Nice.
I'm Tyler Armentrout. Good night, everyone.
So basically what I'm hearing is that it was very appropriate of us to talk of Chumbawamba before we got into this here episode.
Sure, yeah.
Because he gets knocked down,
But he gets
and
up.
he gets back up again.
Oh, there's so much of that in this story.
That's the story of Red Kelly, honestly.
I get-
Getting knocked down and getting back up again.
Red
Perfect.
Kelly, or Ned Kelly, he was tub thumping.
Just pissing the night away.
What we'll learn in this is the Kelly family as a whole are just a whole mess of tub thumpers. They're just, they're all pissing the night away.
He tub thumped, his daddy tub thumped, his grandpappy tub thumped. Long line of tub thumpers.
Mom, brothers, sisters, tub thumping the whole time.
Tub thumping the night away.
Oh my
What?
God. Okay. In 1842, Red boarded a ship bound for Australia. And only 3 people died along the way, so you know the boat was run exceptionally well by a top-notch crew.
Like those odds.
Yeah, because more people would die usually. So only 3, that was like, hey, pretty good.
Yeah.
Only 3 people died on this trip.
Usually
mean,
there's
no
only
one
3
would've
survivors.
Yeah.
I was going to
Sorry.
say, only, if only they had Shackleton to be their captain, then no one would die.
Yeah, right?
Except the
He
dogs.
was Irish.
Yep.
Except the dogs.
Why? Why must you bring that up?
However, almost immediately after he arrived in Australia, he left the processing holding area. Like, you go through all these lines, and they'd look at you, and they'd write down, like, okay, yep, looks good, behaves well. And it was just taking too long, so he left this area without permission. And they, found him later. Like, they went out and found him. They found him in a potato field. And they sentenced him immediately to 2 months of hard labor and leg irons. So he was not, he was 2 seconds off the boat, and boom.
In his defense, as an Irishman on that boat, he did have to go a long time without being around potatoes.
In the book I read about Ned Kelly, it's in the... By the way, all of our sources are in the show notes of this show. It said the admittedly Irish crime of being found in a potato field. Even the book about Ned Kelly said that.
Jesus Christ. Please tell me it was written by an Irish folk.
It was...
It was written by an Australian man who I think
Okay.
was... I'm 100% certain that he is of Irish descent.
I'm of Irish descent. Am I allowed to say that stuff?
I don't
I'm going to say 50-50 on
I'm going to
that.
say no.
know. No, probably not.
No, it wasn't okay. At least I own that.
So the prison camp that he was sent to in Australia was an absolute nightmare.
Oh.
There were people without noses or ears that were bitten off for snitching, and some prisoners killed other prisoners just to get the news.
Wait. The prisoners were biting off other prisoners' noses and ears?
For snitching, yeah.
Yeah.
And not
What?
only that, but every single day when they got up, the guards would say, "Bad A, mate," and then they'd punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Because they wanted them to have a bad day.
Yeah.
By the sound of things.
Tyler's Australian accent is about as good as Quentin Tarantino's Australian
Yeah.
accent. So after Red was released, he had met a man in a bar named James Quinn, who was also Irish, and he had come to Australia to, quote, improve his position. Because he was Irish, living under the English yoke. He figured there was more freedom in Australia for what he was looking for. Turns out he was right for only himself, but...
Australia, they're very fast and loose when it comes to the word cunt, so...
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite as popular
Here in the
over here.
US of A.
Yeah.
Here
it's
in
kind of a
God's
term of-
country.
Yeah, here, so sort of a term of endearment over there. So the two, James Quinn and Red Kelly, got really drunk together, and they discussed a
Nice.
get-rich-quick scheme that was all about making moonshine. But the next day, the hangover made them sort of see more clearly. They're like, "Oh, I'm not doing that."
Been there. I've
Hey
had some-
guys, this podcast would be such a great idea. I swear to God, we're gonna be famous.
You know, unlike most of my schemes that I come up with while drunk, every once in a while, you know, one of them happens that we come up with. Jerry came up with.
We came along on a ride, Chris. We came along on a ride. All of us.
I've come up with a lot of drunken schemes. That's all I'm saying.
You can never be hungover if you keep drinking.
Right.
So, like you said, Lemmy Kilmister. It's the
Right.
way to do it.
He had fantastic genetics.
Do yourself a favor and watch the Lemmy documentary, because he straight up says to his son, "Hey son, don't ever do cocaine. Do speed. It's a lot better for your health."
So that's how they met. But Red did go work on James Quinn's farm that he bought. James Quinn had a rebellious 18-year-old daughter named Ellen, who took a fancy to the 30-year-old Red Kelly. She would like skip class all the time, and she'd be outside like running in fields and like climbing trees and stuff. She's like a Laura Ingalls styled character.
Okay.
Now, James Quinn did not approve of this one bit, but it wasn't long before Ellen became pregnant,
Uh-oh.
and Red and Ellen were married. Their first daughter, Anne, was born in 1853, the same year Red decided to set out to the new town of Beveridge, Victoria, to take advantage of the gold rush that was happening there.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just happened to take off the year his first child was
Well,
born.
yeah.
He's like, gotta get that gold rush, you know?
Yeah. He took his
Also,
family.
I'm thirsty, and it sounds like that town has just what I need.
Yeah, Beveridge.
He was going to Beveridge to pick up some milk.
A pack of smokes.
Never came back.
Some gold milk.
And Red paid his license, because in order to go and find gold, you had to pay for this. You had to pay for a license to do it, and then you had to pay a certain amount each time, whether or not you got gold or not. And plenty of times you didn't get gold. So they'd come along and they'd demand it, and there'd be like these hired thugs and stuff that would come along and like beat people up if they didn't have licenses or if they couldn't pay for their license. It's a thuggish system for sure to keep people again where they're at, you know.
But if you break the law, you're not arrested. They just government goons beat you up.
Yeah.
I mean, can you guys imagine like going out fishing on the creek and you forgot to buy a fishing license or your license expired, and like 6 guys come up and beat the fucking shit out of you with
Yeah.
your fishing rod?
Yeah, and then take the money.
Yeah, and then take your money. This
Yeah,
is
we takes the money, Lebowski.
You gotta pay your dues, and even to be considered for gold is it's a huge compliment, and that's the
I
reason
didn't
why
realize
we
this was
do
a
what we
union.
do. It's so we have an opportunity just to be nominated every year, you know.
Yeah.
Now, Red bought a nice place towards the center of town, thinking that when Beveridge blows up due to the gold boom, he'll be sitting pretty right in the middle of town with like a nice house that he can like fix up over time. He's like, you just wait until, and then we'll be sitting pretty when this town is a big town.
That's the
You know?
equivalent of buying a lottery ticket and then, before you know if it's a winner, buying a giant house and be like, when I win the lottery...
It was a really nice town at the time. The town actually still does exist. It's a very small town, but it was, after all, it was like any other gold rush. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a finite amount of it.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of similarity with Red right now, since I bought a house down in Tacoma and I'm just waiting for this place to blow up, man.
Yeah, right. So in that next year, in December of 1854, we don't actually know what date, and we think it's December, their son, Edward Ned Kelly was born.
Oh, Nedward.
I was going to say that.
Yes.
So for a short time, the family did well. But in 1854, the Eureka Rebellion happened in Victoria against the hated prospecting license laws and the hired brigands used to enforce them.
Huh, how about that?
And people left the goldfields in droves, making Red's land worth nothing.
Fuck.
So, like, the town didn't totally become a ghost town, but it kind of became a ghost town for a while. Anyway.
This uprising had nothing to do with Archimedes at all?
No. No. Economic depression started to set in, and Red had to sell his land eventually for nothing to move to Avenel in 1863. That kind of shows you how much time passed and how, like, the economy just sort of dried up and faded away. The family moved around a lot when Ned was a kid, because everywhere they went, they faced police harassment. And why? Because at that time, like Tyler was saying earlier, the people that owned all the land were rich squatters. That's what they were called. People that had taken the land years before, illegally, and had forced the colonial government to just recognize their claims because they were there. And these people would only sell or rent the worst parts of their land to poor families who sometimes were only entitled to a quarter of that land. And if you did manage to get any of this land, like the actual quarter that you were entitled to, the rich squatters would do everything they could to get you off of it. These people paid and tipped off police with trumped-up charges, making life difficult. And the Kellys were certainly having a rough go at it. What this is someone trying to stake a piece of land, forced to only have a very small piece of land that sucks, and they try to grow crops on it that sometimes the land wasn't meant to grow, like wheat on some of these places. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard to get anything going.
Real Dust Bowl situation.
Yeah, and the fact that, the Kellys, Red was, he was kind of a rough and tumble type of guy from a rough and tumble family, and he was Irish, and he was Catholic, and the rich people that owned all the stuff, that was like all the strikes against him, Yeah. They had a hard time just making it.
The law enforcement was English. The squatters were rich English people.
Yeah.
And so essentially all that like systemic racism that originated in the UK came with the Irish and the English when they came to Australia for their various reasons. And so they were moving around because they just didn't want to get arrested on a Friday night for being Irish.
Right.
So, this sounds like a Morrissey song.
Yeah. In addition to that, because it was so hard living, they kind of didn't have any choice but to make their means through crime. So it's a real catch-fucking-22.
Yeah.
Sure.
The only way to actually get any kind of money,
They were a bunch of Irish Aladdins.
Right. One popular job that was always available was to split firewood. And you would bring it into town, and you could make a very, very meager salary out of doing that, but it wasn't enough to feed a family like the Kellys. You know what I mean? So, once as a small boy, Ned even stole a horse from one of the rich squatters so he could return it for the bounty. But when he did return the horse, it was obvious to everyone that Ned had cared deeply for it because it was well fed and really well groomed. And he's like, "Found your horse. It was up there, lost. It's been gone for a whole week." And they're like,
Tell me more.
Yeah.
The horse has like a perm and is like glossy, gold stirrups. And Ned's wearing like muddy rags and has hookworm.
Yeah, it's like when you pay extra money for Rockstar and get the best horse in Red Dead Online.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they kind of like patted him on the head and they're like, "Okay, we know why you did it. Here, take the gold coin, whatever." They did have some rough and tumble extended family but they were trying to make an honest living. When times were looking bleak, Red decided that he was going to steal a pig from one of the rich squatters.
Runs the family.
I mean, yeah.
You just gotta steal the least greasy one because you're never gonna get your hands on the greasiest pig on the farm.
And they do that on purpose. No,
grease your pigs. That's how you keep the thieves off. Because most thieves don't have the money for pig handling gloves.
So Red butchered it. He cut out the brand and the hide. He hid the hide in the bedroom and burned the bones. 2 days later, the police came and took Red away. Red was charged with cattle theft, although that was thrown out for a lesser charge of basically having a hide with the brand cut out. Basically, they were like, "Where'd your pig go?" And he's like, "I don't know." And they're like, "Hey, that guy, that poor guy, he has the hindquarters of a pig tied up in his shed. Let's go ask him." He's like, I had a pig. And they're like, "Well, was it his? Did you steal it?" And he's like, "There was a brand on it, but..." And like they found the burnt bones too, and they're like, "Dude."
Yeah, it was like, bones aren't gonna disappear if you burn them.
They found
You gotta get them. If you want bones to burn, you gotta get them piping hot. And they didn't have the gasoline for it back then. And in addition to that, that's the reason why I brand everything in my house. No one's gonna steal it. Both my dogs are branded, my wife is branded, and you better believe my ass is branded.
with your own name.
Never encountered anything that hurt so bad and gave me such a boner.
Now, Red could either pay the fine of £25, or it was 6 months hard labor. Now, when I say hard labor, I mean like taking a chisel or a sledgehammer and turning big rocks into little rocks.
It's exactly what I pictured.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It's not like retail at the Gap.
No. It's not that bad.
That just reminds me of when I used to work at Macy's. Woof. I got some stories about that.
Now, the Kellys were penniless. So, Red went off to the work camp in 1865. Ned became the man of the house and quit school to provide for his family. He made meager cash selling chopped wood and shearing sheep. And once, as he was going to town for work, he saw a boy with a straw hat on. Now, this seven-year-old boy was named Dick Shelton. And as he was looking over the side of a bridge into the river, his hat flew off and snagged on a nearby tree. He crossed the barrier, tried to reach for his hat, and he fell into the fast river, and he was swept away. But the only person there to see it happen was Ned, who ran and dove into the river after the boy, and he saved his life.
This is some Huckleberry Finn shit.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And it
Seriously.
wasn't until he returned to the boy's parents and said, "I saved your son." And they said, "That's impossible. Our son died 7 years ago." And he realized that he saw a ghost.
Whoa! No, the Sheltons were enormously grateful and gave Ned this green and gold sash. Like, it was green and it had like what do you call it? Tassels, like gold tassels on the end.
Okay.
And it was like the colors of Ireland, and it became Ned's most prized possession for his whole life. Was this sash that sort of represented his heroic good deed, and he kind of walked around for a while like with it on, and he was like telling everybody like, "I saved a kid in the creek. This is how I got this."
There you go.
You couldn't just like go to the tassel store and buy yourself some tassels back then. You had to know a guy who could make them from scratch. So,
and it was silk, so like it was like nothing that they had. It was like you would like ask strangers like, "You want to feel it?" Because like no one had silk anything,
I would be
Sure.
so tempted to use it as toilet paper.
And you know we never washed it.
Well,
Yeah.
and this isn't the last we'll hear of that sash.
Oh.
No, certainly not. The newly released Red was proud of his son for doing this, but he was a changed man. He became a massive alcoholic, and Ned watched helplessly as his father wasted away in front of him.
In Margaritaville.
In the bad Margaritaville. In, like, the bad area of Margaritaville.
In the slums of Margaritaville.
Yeah.
On
Wrong
the
side of
opposite
the
side of the
tracks.
train tracks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Red's body swelled from dropsy, and John Red Kelly died 2 days after Christmas in 1866. He was 45 years old. Still, Red was respected and loved by his family, and they would only remember him fondly. On one of Ned's guns, he even carved N.K., son of Red. Ned Kelly, son of Red.
Nice.
Ellen Kelly took the family to Greta, and I've also heard it pronounced Greta, but I think that's based off of where you're from.
Yeah. I'm not saying Greta.
I think this part of the Earth, it's okay to say Greta in relation to what we're talking about.
Greta shot first.
It's
Yeah,
the,
she took the family. She took the family to Greta to live with her two sisters, who had married the Lloyd brothers. Two sisters married two brothers. The Lloyd brothers were currently doing time for cattle theft, but Ellen and her family worked hard to pay for their tiny cabin that was in the bush and barely made ends meet. And their first cabin that they had was burned to the ground, along with everything else they had, by Ned's drunk Uncle James Kelly, who was feeling amorous one night.
Oh.
Well, I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're just trying to make ends meet in the bush, you know?
He was trying to fuck the fire and had to stop, drop, and roll.
It was one
In
of the
the cabin.
sisters.
So basically, James he lit a bunch of candles. He
No.
he had
Put out a bunch of rose petals.
a little bit of rose petals, maybe like bush leaves.
No.
But,
In Australia, it's more romantic to get blackout drunk and burn down a shack.
while he's screaming because I'm TNT the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nuts. By the way,
Yeah.
he's like he makes moves on the young lady. They smash a gin bottle over his head, and in retaliation, he burns the fucking house down.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's a small like kerfuffle, like getting him out of the house, and like one of the sisters bashed the gin bottle over his head, and yeah, he burnt the place to the fucking ground.
Apparently, Chris has never been rejected before.
Never
So
once.
I thought that it was because Uncle James was so horny that he just had to burn the place down because he didn't know what else to do.
he's all
You ever get so horned up the only cure is burning stuff down?
So yeah, they had to buy a different cabin after that, and this is the cabin we're in now. And they paid dearly for it. They worked very hard to keep this cabin. And it was a small place, and just like living in the bush must have been awful. She boarded the small place out to travelers that were passing by. She also sold booze illegally at a markup price because that was a common way to make money, even though it was illegal. Even police chiefs did that on the down low, sold booze on the side.
Oh, so she was an entrepreneur.
Do we have any information on what kind of booze she was making? Because I know that potatoes, wheat,
moonshine.
Well, a lot of people made illegal moonshine, but that was its own crime. I think what she was doing was just selling booze without a license at a markup.
Oh, okay. So she wasn't actually distilling.
She wasn't making it. Yeah. And Ellen didn't care who these travelers were either that she would help out or where they had come from, as long as they treated her and her family with respect. Even escaped outlaws.
Well, that had to be like 90% of them in that time
A lot of
period.
them. Yeah.
I mean, you'd be out of business if you cut those guys out.
Yeah, right.
You're way more interesting if you're a legitimate businessman in the bush during that time period.
Look,
Right. Yeah.
weird.
Toothpicks, huh?
Yeah. These people knew her family and knew both sides of her family. They had known the Kellys. They had done time together. And they were coming by because they were literally the only people that they could turn to when they were released. The government, each colony of Australia at this time had its own colonial government. So when I say, like, the police, I mean, like, the Victorian police.
Not like Sting and the police.
No.
Okay, cool.
But they were looking for reasons to just pick up these, what they considered just bad people. Unwashed, bad people. The only people that were friendly to them were people like Ellen.
Also, this feeds back into the reason why later on Ned would be kind of such a folk hero and such a celebrity, and even at the time he was protected by the majority because the majority were the Kellys and people like them, and the minority were the rich squatocracy who essentially were, greasing the palms of the man to fucking keep him down.
Yeah, exactly. So in 1869, one such escaped prisoner who found help with the Kellys was a man named Harry Power.
Fucking love this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Harry Power was shorter than average, he was blonde, with a big beard, he was kind of on the rotund side, and he walked with a waddle sort of gait.
I'm disappointed already because I was imagining Danzig until you said blonde with big beard.
If Danzig... honestly, if Danzig had blonde hair with a big beard, it would be Harry Power.
Especially now that Danzig's put on a few pounds.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Mother."
Yeah. Now, the reason for the waddle were these awful corns that he had on his feet.
Ooh.
And they were probably from wearing boots that were 2 sizes too large. People even said that, like, the toes of the boots would curl up 1.5 inches beyond where his toes actually were to, like, make it obvious that he was just wearing boots too big, because I guess he had something to prove. I don't know.
That to me just sounds like Mexican culture with like caballero boots that just like full on have like the toe curls.
I think that's like a style choice, though. This was like not that.
I'm picturing the guy from Always.
Choice.
The guy from Always Sunny with the lawyer with the big fake hands.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
he's
talking
insecure. About? Yeah, he's insecure about his hand size. Yeah,
well,
who was also a Kelly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go. Well, I read the big boots thing as they weren't boots that he purchased, and being a bushranger, being an outlaw, there's a good chance that he pulled those off a corpse, and they were just the boots that he found.
See, that's what I thought at first, and then you were talking about it being an insecurity thing.
That could be. Other people commented on it as like,
why not both?
That guy's wearing giant boots.
The thing is, here, what I thought was that I was like, at first, maybe he's wearing boots that didn't fit him, but he just kept doing it to the point
where
he developed corns and a waddle, because apparently the waddle is preferable to people laughing at his tiny feet.
Yeah.
It's like, you can make fun of my waddle all fucking day.
All you want.
But look how giant my feet are.
Yeah.
I think his stocky frame was becoming of the waddle. It was it was a full thing. He had
he had
energy,
a
persona.
If anything, he's like, I gotta waddle around with this giant dick in my pants.
I was about to ask, do you think like he had too small of feet, but he had a huge penis, and he just wanted to get shoes that would like show off that?
I think
so
that's
he could
what
tuck
he
his
hoped.
penis into his shoe.
There's no correlation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I know, I have huge feet.
Now, Harry Power had known the Lloyd brothers in prison, which is how he knew that the Kellys would help him. He regaled the Kellys with tales of his exciting bushranging escapades. Like, he was like, oh yeah, like, you know, he's like telling them all, and like, 14-year-old Ned Kelly's like filled with stars, and he's like, tell me more, Mr. Harry Power, and he's like,
Tell me
and
more,
then I would like burst in, and I'd rob these people, and all this stuff, and he's like, wow, that's amazing, and he's like, right? And like, Harry Power's eating it up, Ned Kelly's eating it up.
Well, I mean, clearly Harry Power is eating it up because he is, in fact, a bushranger. God damn it, I made a joke about bushranging being a pussy thing. I did it. I said I wasn't going to do it, and 2 beers later, I walked right into it like a total dipshit. You got me. And I stumbled all over that motherfucker on the way in.
I think it maybe was a couple more. Oh, yeah, those are IPAs. Those are strong beers.
I'm on number 4, baby.
Now, Tyler, you know the difference between the bush and the outback, right?
They're both the same in Brazil.
That's pretty good.
No.
That's pretty good.
You guys all know the difference between the outback and the bush, right?
No.
On Australia's coastline, they have, like, the dense jungle and swamps and rivers, you know, where, like, the crocodiles are hanging out and stuff. Where, like, the interior of Australia is the outback. Like the dry desert outback, right?
Where's Nick Cave from?
I can't remember what city he's from.
He's from kind of a small one, isn't he?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and I do know that both are beautiful as long as you have a ride back to the city.
Yeah.
So my understanding of geography for Australia in general is from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Right.
So I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all drag queens and then giant scary monsters.
Did the proposition? Did they film that in Australia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's Outback.
That's why it's got that all-star Australian cast. It's got Guy Pearce. You got Hugo Weaving in there. You know.
Yeah. Written by Nick Cave.
Wesley Snipes, Patrick Swayze.
Hugo Weaving.
Wait, that's Tu Wong Fu. That's Tu Wong Fu. That's Tu Wong Fu.
Turns out, Harry Power was actually locked up for horse theft, and he turned bushranger only because he busted out. Because like when he busted out of prison, he like looked back at prison. He goes, "Oh well, shit! If they catch me now, it's definitely the news for old Harry Power. Better become a bushranger now."
When you talk about busting out, I imagine it's like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah, no, I imagine like literally the brick wall explodes. He comes out wearing stripes, 2 6-shooters in his hands, and there's like an alarm, and he's like looking around, you know, and he's like, "I gotta get out of here. I'm a bushranger now."
Looks like old Harry Power's becoming a bushranger.
He goes right down the barrel into the lens of the camera, you know, and it pushes in as he says it.
Yeah,
it's a defining moment for him.
And keep in mind, like, he had just broken out, you know, previous to him meeting up with the Kellys. He was pretty new to this. And it turns out that, like, when he held people up, he actually just, like, shouted loudly and, like, waved guns around to scare them into, like,
Is that how you do it?
Money. I mean, he never, like, shot anybody or anything. He never did any hardcore outlaw stuff.
Murdering?
That's how I would rob people, though.
Right.
Like, hey, fucker!
Just wave my gun and maybe shoot him in the air and be like, "You give me all your stuff, guys, please."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
wave
one
a
time,
snub-nosed revolver in the air.
Yeah.
Like, give me your stuff.
Oh yeah.
See, I wonder if it's possible to mug somebody from Bellevue, just by being really passive aggressive and you know pretending that you have a gun in your pocket.
Probably if you just wave in the air.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And talk very loud, they'll give
All
you
you
money.
gotta, you say, "Let me see your cell phone."
Oh boy.
Mission accomplished.
Right. So one time, 2 would-be victims got Harry Power's gun away from him, and he like sat there with his hands up, and he's like, okay, and like talked them into just giving his gun back, and he would just go away. He's like, He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Listen, give me my gun back, and I'll leave you alone. I'm sorry. And they did.
I definitely won't shoot you if you give me my gun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nevertheless, though, Ned bought it, and he impulsively rode off with Harry as his new bushranger apprentice.
They're best friends.
Cool.
He was like, kid, we're going to go on some adventures.
The Harry Power had a plan up his sleeve, but he never really got to tell anyone exactly what it was. You see, like, the whole time he's like, you see, when you're a bushranger, you gotta do this and this and this. And, like, Ned's like, okay. And, like, they, like, rode up to this area, and, like, Harry's, like, being, like, really Clandestine, and he, like, ties the horses up, and he goes, we have to get new mounts. These ones are worn out. So they went to this place, and, like, they stole, like, 2, like, fresh horses and brought them back up to where they were. And they're on, like, this bluff, and it's above this ranch that has all these horses in it. And the presumed plan is that they would go down there and, like, make off with a bunch of their horses. But the bluff that they went on, they were, like, instantly spotted. They were, like, totally in plain sight. And so they're like, okay, this is what we do. And, like, they're talking, you know, and he's like, they're doing that. And one of the guys, like, runs into the ranch house. And Dr. Rowe, the 59-year-old man that owned the property, was quickly alerted to their presence.
I just feel like Harry's like, shouldn't have done that in broad daylight, so that one's on me. That one's on old Harry Power.
Yeah. And he took his long-range rifle, and he jumped on a horse, and he circled around them so they couldn't see. And they're there, like, discussing their plan, and Dr. Rowe puts a shot right in front of them, because they're laying down on the ground, like, with their bellies to the ground. The shot lands right in front of Ned's face, and, like, they get a face full of dust, both of them. And Ned instantly goes, I surrender!
And he's like 14.
He's 14 years old. This is the first thing he's ever done. And Harry Power, he's like, shit! And he grabs Ned, and he pulls him over to the horses that they had brought with them originally. They weren't as good as the other horses they had stolen, but they were kind of in the wrong direction from where the shot came from. So they jumped on their worn-out horses anyway, and they made this breakneck ride through some of the toughest terrain that the area had to offer and got away. It was like this crazy ride.
That's fucking nuts.
I just imagine in the movie of this that I imagine in my mind, Goodbye Horses is playing in the background while they're trying to escape.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show you that you'd never go with the first bushranger that wants you as an apprentice, because that guy is a fucking tool and a loser, and
especially the guy that's, like, really excited that, like, you're buying everything he's saying. He's like,
I want to take credit for a joke that Tyler said before we were recording, but he's like Frank Reynolds from Always Sunny in Philadelphia meets Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, kind of.
He is the shittiest mentor character in the history, in the large pantheon of shitty mentor characters.
Yeah, it didn't go well his first time.
Yeah.
The only thing that he taught Ned Kelly was what not to do.
Yeah.
Like,
in my movie,
not to be.
In my movie, he'll be played by Danny DeVito, and Ned will be played by Charlie Day.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That would be so good.
And during the child scenes, you're just gonna give him a giant lollipop.
Yeah. Dress him up like Little Lord Fauntleroy.
Yeah. Because Charlie Kelly is like 40 years old. Or, well, Charlie Day is 40 years old.
Yeah. So, Ned and Harry argued the rest of the time. Harry pointing out Ned's supposed cowardice, saying, he's saying, like, surrender. And he's like, you surrendered immediately. Bushrangers don't do that. And Ned yelled about how there probably wasn't a plan in the first place, and you boss me around all the time, and you have a horrible temper. They just didn't really get along as a pair very well.
A buddy cop film is what I imagine now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I would watch.
still-
I would watch. I don't know, a limited 10 episode run on Netflix, maybe Disney Plus, about these guys, just seeing their adventures as they go around and learn to come to terms with each other and also the world.
I'm just picturing one of those episodes of Always Sunny still, where they like are back in time.
Yeah.
That's I will never not think of these
That's great.
as Sunny characters now.
In any case, Ned went back home, vowing that his bushranging days were over. But when he got back home, however, he found that his mother's new fiancé, a man named Bill Frost,
Bill Frost.
had knocked her up and then left after promising he would marry her and take care of the kids.
Oh, fucking guy.
It's terrible. Also,
He wants a beverage. He wants some milk.
Also, Ellen's father, James Quinn, Ned's grandfather, and really the only one that had any success in Australia, he died.
Aw.
So things were looking bleak.
I mean, they still had their shack, the one that wasn't burned
Yeah.
down, right?
Yeah, but now they had another mouth to feed on the way. A man that was gonna help them provide for the kids gone.
Was he the
You know,
Californian?
The dad was dead. No, we're gonna get to him.
Okay. Okay.
We're gonna get to him. No, Bill Frost was a piece of shit. Just a total piece of shit.
He was from Piece of Shitia. He
Yeah.
was a piece of shit.
He's just an asshole.
Yeah.
Now, Ned's first real brush with the law came in this short time that we're talking about here. It came from an altercation he had with a Chinese man by the name of Ah Fook.
Sorry.
That's his real
No,
name.
it wasn't.
That's his
That's
real
fucking.
name.
That's racist.
Well,
His
it's
real
What's his
name is
real
Ah
name,
Fook.
Jerry?
Seriously.
it's more racist that he was played by Mickey Rooney.
Fook. I'm assuming that he was Cantonese. So
That would make the most sense to me, and the way he was described sounded Cantonese, because at this time, there is a big difference in the way they dressed. One day
Sure.
we'll do an episode about that.
Well, and also, it's a dead giveaway that as soon as he showed up, he tried to barter with the Kellys pretty hard.
Yes, he did. He
that
did,
was
actually.
a joke, but okay.
No, that's true. What?
What was your joke?
He tried to barter.
The Cantonese people
yeah,
like
the
to
whole
barter.
bartering thing is
Yeah.
what
Well,
the joke
yeah.
was. But I could have said also,
like, yeah, he
like,
did.
Jewish people like to barter. And,
That's true. Pretty much everyone except for white people in America like to barter. We're the
I want
only
to know
ones
what
that
some
don't.
costs.
We're like, oh, that's how much it costs. That's how much is on the tag. I don't want to argue with anyone.
Well, maybe because we're like paid a wage and always constantly afraid of our job security, and we're like, I didn't make the prices, pal.
Yeah.
You know, it's not my shop. You know,
We're ruled by fear, guys.
we're ruled by fear of just the entropic circle of capitalism.
Let's circle the drain some more, boys.
Yeah. Now, according to Ah Fook, Ned Kelly came out of the house brandishing a stick, claiming to be a bushranger, and he robbed him of 10 shillings, kind of beat him up, and let him go. Now, when I say kind of beat him up, he had a couple of bruises on him.
Slapped him a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how much ass can you kick when you're like 15? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, right? Well, Ah Fook. Now, when Ned was arrested, and they came and kicked down the door and drug him out of bed, he had a different story. He said that Ah Fook was passing by when he asked Ned's sister Anne for some water to drink. When she gave the man creek water instead of rainwater, he became irate and started screaming at Anne when Ned came out, and there was an altercation in which Ah Fook was the one wielding the stick and hitting Ned with it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of rude. Give him the rainwater, man.
Also, the egalitarian country of the year award goes to Australia in 67 is probably around when this is. No, like 1873.
69, I would say.
Yeah.
1869.
Okay.
It was the summer of '69.
Because somebody who is of Asian descent went to the police and had a grievance, and the police actually followed up on it and didn't just say, "Get out of here, Chinaman."
It's true. Australia had a large population of Chinese immigrants, and not to say that they were treated well.
Oh no, they just
the police in Victoria treated Fook, who had clearly he had more money than the Kellys had. Yeah. They treated Fook way better than these dirty rabble, the Kellys.
Yeah, I was gonna say they were like, I don't like the way this Chinese fellow looks, but I hate the Irish. You know?
God damn it!
I honestly feel like
strata to their racism.
Oh yeah,
I feel like that
levels.
comes up in a lot of stories we told.
Yeah.
Which group of people do I hate more?
Yeah.
Jesus Jones, like this sounds to me like Big Trouble in Little China right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, because there was no other witnesses other than the Kellys, the case was dismissed. The police, however, considered all those Kellys to be no good, and they kept tabs on them, and like serious tabs. We'll kind of get into how far that went in the next episode. This is going to be a two-parter, folks. So, seeing no work available and his family starving, Ned made amends with Harry Power, and he went off bushranging again in 1870. Together, they took part in a string of successful robberies, because turns out Harry Power had gotten the hang of being an outlaw, and his reward for capture was up to £500.
Well, about time he's done something good.
Adjusted for inflation, I'm wondering how many. I guess what would it be, pounds, or would it be Aussie bucks, or what did they got?
Well,
Australian bucks.
Well, yeah, this is the English. This is the English pound, but in this time, no one had even seen that kind of money in their life. Like 84 pounds, no one had seen. Remember, the Kellys couldn't afford to pay 23 pounds to get red out of 6 months of hard labor.
So Harry was stealing a lot of horses.
Oh, he got good at being an outlaw, for sure. Police even believed that maybe this was the work of more than just two men. Unfortunately for Ned, though, he was brought in by police on 3 robbery charges. However, no one was able to positively identify Ned, and there was no evidence linking him to any of the crimes.
Only rob the houses of people who can't draw. If you lived back then.
So 500 pounds back in those days is equivalent to $14,087. $14,087.31.
That's like half of one of my student loans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of money. I've never seen that kind of money in my life.
Just letting you know.
But I mean, once you get the bounty, I mean, after taxes, you're gonna end up with like
10 pounds.
The crown, the crown's gonna take a third, so you're gonna end up with about 11,000 pounds. Still nothing to cry about, but it's...
Now, one of Ned's uncles happened to be Uncle James, who had been in prison with Harry Power, and one of them, along with the Lloyd brothers, had told him like, "Oh yeah, the Kellys they're going to be friendly to you."
Right.
He had talked with Harry, and he kind of knew Harry's coming and goings, so he turned informant to try to get that bounty.
That guy sucks.
No, now listen.
It's a lot of money.
James had never seen that kind of money.
It's like 11,000 pounds, man.
Yeah, dude.
We just talked about it.
He may have informed on Harry Power, but he did not inform on his family. In fact, he said, "Oh, you have Ned? Ned had nothing to do with it. You let Ned go, or I won't give you Harry Power."
There you go.
So, the police put Ned up in a hotel room. Ned had no idea of any of this. He had no idea what they were doing. But they put him up in a hotel room to keep him out of the way as they went and got Harry Power. And, when he left that hotel room and Harry Power was in jail, everyone, including Harry Power, accused Ned of snitching to the cops and making him a traitor.
I can see how they would think that.
Yeah.
All these guys got the fuzz on them, and meanwhile, Ned's, he's at a hotel, maybe a motel, maybe a Holiday Inn. We don't know. There's a lot of historians who have different takes on it. And so, what would you think in that scenario?
Most people, it points to Ned, honestly. It points to Ned being a traitor. But he wasn't, and he resented that. And it looked that way for sure.
Yeah, the whole thing that at least I subscribe to is snitches get stitches, and I don't care if it's family, you don't fucking do that shit. If you're gonna protect one person but not the accomplice, don't do that. That's you fucking rat.
I'm sure James had a plan for that money, but I don't think he ever saw that money either.
And Zach, you really should have told that to Red Kelly, because none of this would have happened if one person would have said that to him.
Well, yeah.
Well, and I'm sure Red Kelly knew
that stitches get snitches.
Yeah,
shit! I said it backwards.
Stitches get snitches.
I can't believe I did that.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
Have another drink. You're fine.
The only reason why you would ever inform is because, when it's stacked so against you, at what point do you stop blaming blaming somebody for informing? Yeah. And his silence on the matter, I think, proves that he had in fact informed, and he was very ashamed of it. And I think no one felt good about informing, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do when you're living this rough ass fucking life.
If Harry Power got caught, he'd roll on you immediately.
Totally.
Harry Power would absolutely do that.
Yeah, he's the
Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yes, dude, totally a Tekashi 6ix9ine.
See, the difference though is I don't think Harry Power's a rapist. So
I actually think Harry Power is probably a good guy. He just thought very highly of himself and took himself really seriously.
Right.
And he really wanted to be a badass.
He might have murdered some people, he might have stole some horses, but he's objectively a better person than Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Yes. I don't think Harry Power even murdered anybody.
I think if Harry Power had a song on the Billboard Hot 100, it would easily be number 2. Still putting the new Tekashi 6ix9ine song at number 3.
Well, in any case, Harry Power was sentenced to 15 years hard labor. Can you imagine that? It's
Big
rough.
rocks into little rocks, and when you got corns like that, oof.
Oh, can you imagine breaking down rocks with those corns?
Yeah. Making big corns into little corns.
Making pozole in his shoes.
Oh, Jesus. Do you think his prison issue shoes were 2 sizes too big?
Or like all those people he had bragged to, they're like, ha, knew it.
Yeah.
Stop looking
his
at my
prison
feet,
issue
guys.
shoes were his own size and very small, and it was humiliating for him. He's like, don't look!
All those years at clown college for nothing.
No, Ned Kelly was no traitor, and he knew it, and he hated the implication. However, though, it wasn't long after that another bushranger who was friendly to the Kellys came to town. His name was Isaiah Wild Wright. Along with his brother, affectionately referred to as, quote, dummy.
A real mice and men situation over there.
Oh, it is. It is,
You
absolutely.
stupid piece of shit.
Dummy's real name was John.
Oh, John.
No.
But he was deaf and mute, and Wild took him everywhere with him. And he kind of, it wasn't of mice and men situation, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
Well, and Wild would wouldn't he like prop him up? Like he would essentially use him as bait to start fights.
Oh, yeah. So, check this out. Wild Wright was the kind of guy that would try to start fights in bars. He would sit down next to somebody, and he would say, quote, "Men drink first, dogs drink last." And, of course, get in a fight. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people would, like, bump into his brother Dummy, and he would, like, lose his mind and, like, start, like cutting across his throat, like, using, like, his fingers, like, cutting across across the throat. And, like, Wild would walk up, and he would be like, "What'd you do to my brother?" And, like, then they would get in a fight, you know? But they would, like...
Nice.
Anytime the littlest thing happened to his brother Dummy, they would get in a fight, you know?
It's like Rain Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, from what I
Tom
hear...
Cruise beating up all those guys.
No, Wild...
I think I'm mixing up movies.
Yeah, you are.
Wild is Matt Berry in this scenario, and he's like, from what I hear, my brother Dummy said that you need the
One more word, and I'll put this foot here right up your ass.
yeah. Bat?
And you're in there. Sorry, old chap. Wild Wright had come to the Kelly home with a couple of horses, and one of them kind of ran off into the bush.
Fuck.
And Wright, he was like looking around, and he was like, "I gotta be getting on." And he rode away, but he told Ned that if he found that horse, it was his. Now Ned did find it, and this mare was like the Maserati of horses.
Oh.
And Ned took extreme good care of it.
Question:
Yeah.
Did Ned call dibs on that horse, or the whole finders keepers law?
Well, I think when Wild Wright came through, he like marveled at the horse, and like something happened, and when the horse got away, Wild Wright was just like, "You know what? If you find it, it's yours."
Well, and he also had the vague catchphrase, "When you're wild right, you're never wild wrong." And nobody really knew what he meant by that because he would say it at weird times. But Ned just smiled and nodded and assumed the horse was his.
I'm keeping this horse. That's what I feel like you're telling me.
Yeah.
He Ned would take it to town, ride around on it. He would let girls ride on it. You know, that kind of a thing. You know, he'd be like, "Check this out, this dope ass horse."
Bust that hymen.
Yeah. It's like having a dope car.
Yeah, right? It is. But the police, who thought Ned had gotten off easy last time, they thought the horse was stolen. So Senior Constable Hall approached Ned while he was kind of riding this dope-ass horse through town, and he told him that they had some papers that they needed to sign down at the station. And Ned's like, "Papers? What
I love
papers?"
signing papers.
He's like, "What?
Can't wait.
What papers?" And he's like, "We gotta sign some papers." And like Ned like dismounts off the horse, and as soon as he dismounts, it was just this ruse to make it so Ned couldn't like ride away on the horse. So
Oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, right. So Constable Hall immediately proclaimed that Ned was under arrest. But when he tried to take out his gun, it got caught in his clothes, and Constable Hall tripped and he fell in the dust.
Oh.
A little bit of a bumblebutt.
Yeah. And
That's what he gets for wearing all those layers.
In that heat?
The mare spooked and took off running. And concerned for the horse, Ned ran after it. And Constable Hall thought that Ned was fleeing the arrest. So Constable Hall, now having his gun out, said that he would shoot. He yelled, "I'll shoot you, stop running." And so Ned stopped, turned around, he raised his hands in the air, and he said, quote, "Shoot and be damned." And in an insane...
badass.
It is badass. And in an insane turn of events, Hall pulled the trigger, and it misfired.
Oh, wow.
Ned stayed still. Hall cocked the gun again, pulled the trigger again, and it clicked. He tried a third time, getting closer and closer to Ned each time, but
Right
it
in his
still
face.
clicked. It was right in his face. And, like, Hall is, like, shaking, and he's like, click, click, you know? And Ned is like, this guy has pulled the trigger at least 3 times on me. So he caught the revolver with his hand, which was very close to his head, and he tossed Constable Hall in the dirt. And they struggled for the gun for some time. They kind of attracted a crowd until Hall got it back while he was on top of Ned, and Hall pistol whipped him in the head 4 to 5 times,
Holy
causing his
shit.
head to, like, bleed down his face.
I feel like your point is gotten after Pistol Whip 1.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
if you pistol whip me once, shame on me. Pistol whip me twice.
Shame on you.
Yeah, pistol
can't
whip
get
me
pistol whipped
twice to
again.
5 times. Please, shame on you.
Once you get pistol whipped,
Just please
Like-
stop.
it's not like you
Dude.
can be like, I won't accept another pistol whip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
crazy to me is that Hall went the U.S. police route in the inner city, and that's just click, 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 click
Yeah.
the entire time. Like, that's
Yeah. it's true.
unfucking believable.
It's true. He
to
tried
me.
to straight up murder him under suspicion that the horse
Yeah.
was stolen.
Yeah.
That
Innocent
is
don't
stupid.
run.
This is
I
exactly
mean-
what's happening to this day in America.
Yeah.
The fact that there are people going out jogging that are getting shot and killed
Yeah.
Yeah.
by the fucking
They're
cops.
not doing shit. And the cops will straight up kill you for being who they think you are. Whatever
Well,
that
and
may
it's
be.
crazy too because like as Ned was chasing the horse, he said, "I'm not running away. I respect your authority. I'm just trying to get my horse back."
No.
I just like, if somebody wrote this into a movie, which I know they've done 1,000 times and once recently, I'm just saying like the part earlier where he they shoot at him and he panics and he's like, I surrender. Up until this, that's character growth right there.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
It's a callback. You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, the one lesson that Harry Power taught Ned Kelly that was true and would stick with him to the very end is not to trust authority, and that authority is corrupt, and they will fuck with you, and they will ruin you. They're not there to protect you.
Well-
and this
well, shit, Red
galvanized.
taught him that.
Well, yeah, Red
Seeing
taught
his
him that.
father-
Harry taught him that.
Seeing his father
And-
being drug away in chains at a
Yeah.
formidable age, I mean, that's got to do a number on you. You know.
Yeah. So and then coming face to face with essentially the Grim Reaper, but
Yeah.
a very incompetent Grim Reaper in this scenario,
Right.
Oh,
or
seriously.
just really good luck. Like
Yeah, it's one of those like insane pieces of history that like every time like the ice flow would open up for Shackleton, that kind of a thing. It's like, huh? It's one of those times where like this guy tried shooting him in cold blood 3 times, and it didn't work.
It's like in
Like-
Pulp Fiction. The
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the bullets
Yeah,
this
passing
is an
right
act
through
of
you.
God kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's that. I'm just saying, like, it's just one of those amazing things of history.
Well, and Ned Kelly will eventually make his own bad motherfucker wallet in a different form.
yeah.
Look, my whole thing is that, like, hearing this, I can't help but want to steal Chris's banjo and, like, write, like, anarcho-folk punk songs.
Yeah, right.
I got 2 banjos. We
Oh
can do
my
a thing.
god.
Yeah. So Ned was hauled into jail, bleeding profusely from his head. And he did have a little scar on the top of his head forever after that. So yeah, no, Ned had no idea the horse was stolen, but it didn't matter to them at all. At his trial, the prosecution cited a police report about the stolen horse that was dated 2 days after the altercation between Ned and Hall that took place. Still, Ned didn't give up Wild Right either, simply saying he was innocent. It's like, I didn't know the horse was stolen. I'm sorry. Didn't know the horse was stolen. I'm innocent of stealing a horse. I did not steal a horse. And he was innocent. Nevertheless, 16-year-old Ned Kelly was sentenced to 3 years hard labor for a crime he did not commit. And the police...
Is everything here hard labor, no matter what you do? Like,
pretty much.
It doesn't seem like they just have prison time. It's like hard labor every time.
Yeah, they have
jaywalking, hard
shortage.
labor.
I was gonna. God damn it, Jerry, you son of a bitch! I was gonna say during that period of time, Australia had a serious gravel shortage, and it was that hard labor that brought them out of those times.
Yeah,
there were dark,
gravelous times.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give away gravel now.
No.
I fucking love gravel. I don't give a shit.
Can't make it in a blender.
Right.
You don't have the right blender.
Well, tell that to Kramer.
I don't want to...
Tell that to Sheriff Joe.
I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I remember like fucking 9 years ago I made a list of things that I love, and in the middle of the list was gravel. And I remember reading it out loud, and Jason Kurtz specifically, after all of it, he just goes, gravel?
Because I would assume there were other things in there that were
Oh,
fun,
no, it was
not
this
just
long
gravel.
list. And
Yeah.
It was like 50 things.
Yeah.
it was put in as
Like
a
35
joke.
to 50.
Gravel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, the police thought this was justified, though. Because after all, Ned was an outlaw. And he was a bushranger. And he had ridden with Harry Power, and he was a criminal. And they had finally got him. But 3 years seemed kind of crazy. And to really display this, I mean, later, when Wild Wright had been caught, he only served 18 months hard labor. A shorter sentence.
You can barely make any gravel in that amount of time. I don't even know why you'd get that sentence.
Well, it's just crazy, like, it was clear that they were sending, Ned Kelly a message by putting him in for 3 years and Wild Wright in for 18 months,
Well, the colonial government didn't only, they specifically hated the Kellys.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. They did.
Yeah.
For
if
sure.
there's a form of targeted racism that goes down to this specific family, they had it then. And they used it on them.
Well, and the thing is I'm from a small town. And I feel like every small town has at least one family of, let's say, ne'er-do-wells,
Yeah.
But
Sure.
the point is that like they're just trying to go about their lives, man. Yeah, they might have some dark past. They might have some influences that are wrong. That, yeah, it might be rough and tumble. But you know what? That's no reason to target them and make them criminals just
Well, that's
because
how people aren't able to
you
pull
think they
themselves
are.
out of it.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
You can't when you do that.
I mean, despite, the illiteracy, the animal torture, the dead sex workers in barrels, these families don't need to get that kind of trouble. And in some cases, they don't even have any of the things that I mentioned. They're just kind of like the family that everyone decides to be bullies to.
Well, it's a poor family that the only way they get on with life is fighting against the system that keeps them down, and it makes them look like they're just
Did
they're
them
just
being
out to
Irish
fuck everything up.
have anything to do with it?
Oh yeah,
I thought so.
yeah. Being
That's-
Irish and Catholic in this particular area, I think I of course our listeners will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this area was predominantly Protestant Scottish, so they would have stuck out. When the Quinns moved in, it was sort of like a welcoming, friendly face of Irish Catholics coming into this place. You know what I mean? So there absolutely was, and there was a culture of something the British did a lot. They would take the oppressed culture and they would make them into like cops to police their own people.
Oh,
And in a way, it would ideologically assimilate them into their own hierarchical sort of thing. It was a way of, like, taming the beast in a way.
Yeah, I feel like
into
we've
what
talked
they
about
think.
that in the past, where you give a certain group of people a little bit more so they have somebody
Well,
to like look down on.
yeah, well, the Nazis would do it with, they created a Jewish police force to police the people inside the ghettos. It's just like that.
Yeah.
Right.
This is where we're going to leave you until our next episode about Ned Kelly. Ned Kelly Part 2. We're going to leave him in jail, and when we pick back up, he's going to come out of jail.
Guns a-blazing.
And he's gonna be
Stronger
mad
man.
as hell. He's
Yeah.
gonna have sirens. He's gonna have a blown out wall, maybe blown up with a bomb that's a circle with a thing coming out, like a Mario Brothers style scenario.
He's
And
gonna have a
come out
bomb.
with stripes, 6 shooters in each hand, like Yosemite Sam, but an Australian version, clearly. And he's gonna be so mad. Who knows what he's gonna do?
He's like
next.
Sydney Sam.
Yeah.
I'm just
Or
really
Melbourne.
hoping that
Melbourne, yeah?
I'm really
Melbourne?
hoping that
Is that how it's pronounced?
I don't know.
Melbourne.
Okay, go ahead.
Melbourne?
I'm hoping that Ned Kelly comes out of this looking like Chopper Reed, just like no ears, just total badass.
Oh, he's gonna be a total badass. He's going straight to Brisbane.
Yeah.
He did stop shaving in prison, and he got this dope-ass long beard.
Oh, cool! Like everyone else in Seattle. So it's
Yeah.
fine.
Everyone
in
in
Seattle,
Seattle
Dom.
except Chris.
I can't grow a beard, you know it.
Yeah, I know. But I
have
feel like
the-
you haven't tried.
Well,
You've
that's because
seen me
Chris
with
is
some-
our OG history boy.
You know what? You've seen me with some fucking fuzz. It looks awful.
Chris, you can buy a beard online. You put it on your face.
I have a
Everyone thinks
beard.
you're-
Her name is Danny.
Yeah. Oh.
There you go. Hey.
That is the most clever
That's a
thing
weird
you've
joke.
ever said in this moment. I'm so glad that we recorded it. I'll give you a 5 out of 10 on truth and a 10 out of 10 on cleverness. And a 6 out of 10 on just surprising hilarity.
I don't know. It came out. Much like I did. Anyway,
So, yeah.
that's
Stay
really
tuned.
interesting. I
Stay
love this
tuned.
story.
Yeah, it is. And, dude, the
It's-
fireworks have
It's
not
like a
even
Nick Cave
begun
song,
yet.
man.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's totally a Nick Cave thing.
This feels like this whole thing just feels like foreplay
When
to the actual story.
oh, for
yeah.
sure. When
I'm ready to get penetrated.
Wait,
There was
wait,
a-
wait
more
until
of
he
the Kelly.
comes out in a suit of armor.
Oh,
I'm not
there
even
was a
kidding.
recent movie that I know only Tyler watched, the true history of the Kelly gang.
Of
Is that
the
what it's
Kelly
called?
Gang, yeah.
Yeah.
And it takes some serious creative liberties with the Kelly
yeah.
Gang story.
True. You
But-
can't see me, but I'm doing quotes.
In a lot of ways, I feel like the energy of like the period and the struggle and the people feels very authentic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the overall thrust of it's really, really good.
Has anyone ever seen Breaker Morant?
No.
It is a great Australian film. I see. I would take that movie, mix it with like a dash of The Proposition,
Yeah.
and then like kind of a heavy dose of the movie Australia, which you can say what you want about that movie. I like that movie.
Never seen it.
Dose that together, and you kind of have the Ned Kelly story.
Baz Luhrmann stuff isn't usually my cup of tea.
Me either. Like, it's one of the only Baz Luhrmann movies I like.
The only thing I've ever said about Australia is that the title of that movie in my brain has an exclamation point, like
I
Oklahoma.
think it actually
Australia!
does. I think
It
it actually
doesn't.
does.
It does.
Does he?
Chris,
It should.
Chris looked it up and he's like, it doesn't. I'm like, it feels like it should.
It should.
It feels
feel
like it should.
I feel like
Australia.
when the titles open up, it might, though.
Yeah,
Oh.
because it's a
In
it's a
spirit,
Baz
there was
Luhrmann
a-
movie about Australia.
Yeah.
It has a spiritual exclamation point.
Yes.
For
Yeah,
sure.
It
it's
does.
implied.
All his movies
It's
do
implied.
that. Like
It's
The
implied.
Great Gatsby.
All of it. Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say it once. I'll say it again. Like I can only think of Priscilla, the Queen of the Desert, while listening to the story, and Wolf Creek.
Oh,
Like-
yeah.
I,
See Breaker Morant. See that. It's fantastic.
You guys know I love Nick Cave, and every time I hear this, I'm like, this fucking sounds like it was written by Nick Cave. But
Yeah,
I guess, as you said, this is his favorite story. And I feel like there's some, like, the proposition has a little bit of this influence.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a family gang, you know, and they're kind of fighting against an unjust, over penalizing authority, you know. Like that one guy in the proposition, he gives a guy like 50 lashings for nothing, and he's like a boy. He's like 16 years old.
Yeah.
You know.
I was thinking of
so
that, yeah.
there is definitely a lot of that, and you know, the Ned Kelly story, I love it so much because like the Australian people I've met, they are kind of like this. They're like I feel like almost a camaraderie with like Australian people, because the Americans are kind of like, you know, out west at least, you know, they're like the cowboy sort of mentality, the go at it at your own sort of mentality, and so are the Australians.
Well,
you know
and I think like in terms of like kind of describers for both Americans and Australians, you hear the term rugged individualism a lot.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So
Yeah.
That's
think,
what I mean. Yeah.
I think I definitely think that there are some similarities there. You know,
Well, people that went into this unforgiving territory that they didn't really know a lot about, and somehow thrived.
well,
you
and
know.
and they found an indigenous people that already lived there and just decimated them and made their own way of life.
It's true. It's
What's
true.
going on? You know,
It's true.
We have a lot in common.
It's true. No, it's true. It's true. And so tragic what happened. I mean, to both. I don't want to go on this whole diatribe.
I was doing a joke thing, man.
I know. I
don't
was
know.
going to take it to a different place.
I mean, I don't
was
know.
gonna
like,
ape off of Tyler real
It's
quick
true.
and
It's
say
true.
like that would explain why I dated a bunch of Australian girls, because they thrived off of my poverty.
oh man.
Cool.
Well, I'm
I'm
glad that you
descended-
found an American woman to prop you up.
Yes.
I'm definitely descended from the oppressor, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, me too. I'm like,
57% English.
I mean,
I'm
really,
not
if you're
fucking sure.
anyone, you're descendant from the oppressor and the oppressed in
I mean-
in a large enough like stretch of time. So
I'm
you know.
exceptionally Irish, and we know who the true slaves were. But also, I'm a bit English.
Oh, fuck.
I'm kidding.
I know you're kidding, Chris.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Yes,
say
we do. We have done a lot of stories about the Irish being treated like shit, but
We have.
come on, like some people-
They were, but it,
Irish
but it
got it
ain't the
better than
same.
others.
But it ain't the same thing as the antebellum South. Certainly not.
No.
It's
Well, and I
nowhere
keep
near
on
the same
pitching
thing.
stories about it, and you guys just keep on telling me that we're not the right podcast for it.
Tyler, one day we will do it. Just trust me.
I
Trust me
feel
on this
like
one.
four white-ish guys need to be the storytellers for Black struggle in America.
Three
I feel like we're the right
exceptionally-
people.
No,
Three of the
that's
whitest
not what I'm
guys you've
saying.
ever met,
I'm
and one
saying we
sort
do
of
like
guy.
John Brown or some shit. You know. I hate you guys.
No,
Zach,
you don't. You shut your whore mouth.
Zach, do the thing.
All right, love you. Bye. Yeah, fucking